across the Midwest. On Highway 39 in Missouri, 2 people are caught in the fight of their lives due to a flash flood. Fire Chief David Rose stumbles onto the scene and radios back for help.
I hollered at him and told him, hang on, stay where you're at. I've got help on the way. And I could hear him yelling, help, help.
They couldn't reach me. You know, they kept hollering at me, hang on, hang on. And then the water kept hitting me in the face and hitting me in the face, and I just wore out from breathing and going up and down, you know.
I seen the guy's head go underwater 3 different times, and I knew he was gone.
I tried to stand up to get my head up out of the water. When I did, the pressure of the water just knocked me down. And then I opened my eyes underwater and I'd go up and get air and go back under and go back up. Did that for like an hour and a half.
The water was ramping off of his windshield and going up and over the cab of the truck. And he was reaching up over the cab trying to hang on.
There were a couple times I honestly wondered if I was going to make it there because there was so much water over the road, and it was just a dangerous situation even getting to that scene.
Within 15 minutes, Miller County Sheriff Brad DeLay arrives at the scene.
While on my way out there, I had got another call from dispatch that now in that same location there were now 2 separate motorists that had been washed off the roadway and were stranded and possibly going to be swept down this little creek, which was now a river, into the larger Spring River.
The situation is even worse than he expects.
Miss Ross is holding on to this branch pretty good, and not more than another 25, 30 yards from her was Mr. Mills on top of his truck with the water rushing around him everywhere. And I mean, you could tell he was very nervous and scared.
I mean, the water was pounding him and then going over his head.
And the water hit me where I stuck my head up, and boom, I went down and hit the back of the tailgate. And I thought I was gone. I thought I was going to wash away then.
There was, at times, water going over the top of the truck at 3 foot.
Mr. Mills looked like he was going to jump off of his truck into the water and try to essentially make his way back to the roadway.
He was screaming frantically, and I looked at the guy, and he looked like he was going to jump into the water, and we're screaming, do not jump. Do not jump.
He could have made the situation a lot worse had he let go because the waters were very swift, and he was really a smaller man to start with, so I don't think he would have had a very good chance of sustaining those currents and making it back to the roadway.
Fire Chief David Rose's radio for help has also alerted other local authorities, as well as the media. A group gathers on the side of the road and watches in disbelief, but no one can do anything.
It was a little scary, again, because we just didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what was going to happen because we hadn't really done anything like that before.
Probably what struck me the most is that you're in all this water and there's people on either side of you, and they can't do anything to help you.
Finally, after 2 hours, the rains are letting up, giving rescuers an opportunity to reach the couple.
Hooray, hooray, I was thinking when I'd seen those 2 guys. And they had on life jackets, and they brought one out to me.
With flood gear in hand, Sheriff DeLay goes into the water to physically grab hold of Ruth and Kenneth. They pull out Ruth first, since she is further out in the water and at greater risk.
We reached Miss Ross first. We put a life vest on her and gave her some rope, and we brought her on shore.
And when I stood up, I said, guys, my legs is real tired. I said, I gotta crawl. So I just crawled a little ways, and the guys up on the bank got a hold of me and pulled me on up.
Now it was time to rescue Kenneth.
They waited out there because the water kept going down then. I couldn't swim, so I wasn't going to let go, and they had to pull me off my truck.
We suited him up in the life vest and tied him down, and then brought him back to the shore, just basically the exact same way we did with Miss Ross.
It was like climbing up a ledge that was 4 or 5 foot, you know, and there was no way that he could climb up that. And I reached in and locked my hand around his wrist and just raised him up to get him out of there. And he was like a rag doll. He had no strength left.
You could tell it definitely affected him pretty good, and understandably, when the only thing that's basically saving your life is holding on to your windshield wipers and being swept away into the river. He had a pretty near-death experience.
Later that day, Ruth learns that this strand of barbed wire hooked into her log, keeping her stationary in the whipping waters. the barbed wire prevented her from traveling downstream and potentially being in even greater danger.
Barbed wire had broke on the fence at the bottom of the bank, and it had caught on that big limb. And the big limb could go out so far before it was the end of that piece of barbed wire that it caught on. That's why I didn't go on.
Ruth is amazed by her good fortune that day.
I consider myself lucky 4 times that day. First of all, the big limb came by, and I got on it. Second of all, my truck didn't come on top of me. Thirdly, a long strand of that barbed wire had caught onto that big limb I was on. And then fourth, the 2 guys came out and rescued me.
Kenneth is just happy to be alive.
It was scary. Scariest thing I've ever been in.
I don't know how he held on that long, but he did it, and everything worked out. He's a very lucky person. Very lucky. They both are.
By the time the rain subsided that morning, an astounding 11.94 inches of rain has fallen in Miller in just under 9 hours.
That is just unheard of, not only for the fact that this was a tropical system that was affecting the Midwest, but the fact that this much rainfall fell in such a short amount of time.
Ruth and Kenneth's near-death experience will turn out to be just one of many dramatic stories unfolding as a result of the rain. All over the area, there is massive flooding. Rivers are overflowing, homes are saturated, and residents' lives are being changed forever. Angela and Shannon Steinmetz live just 3 miles down the road from where the flash flood occurred.
The roads were washed out, and we hiked in and seen our house, and it was completely destroyed. They picked it up, just wrapped it around a tree and snapped it in half.
It's a good thing we weren't there. We would have died in it.
August 21st, the flash flooding caused by unexpected amounts of rainfall across Missouri finally settles. But across the Midwest, there is massive flooding.
During the Midwest floods of 2007, for a lot of smaller cities, this was that 100-year flooding event where they had water at all-time levels.
States like Minnesota and Wisconsin received up to 15 inches of rainfall. In Ohio, the Blanchard River rises 7.5 feet over flood stage, 18.5 foot high, just shy of the record at Finley.
We have such an interconnected system of rivers that run throughout all of this area, and you get 10 inches of rainfall in one particular location, that water has to flow somewhere.
One of the places that the water flows is inland to the home of Angela and Shannon Steinmetz. They are returning from a short vacation when they hear their neighborhood is hit the hardest by the floods.
As we drove down, we seen the destruction from all the neighbors, corrals, fences, cattle, everything was gone.
As they drive closer to their house,